afternoon, Central Florida First Jurisdiction. This is Pastor T.L. Brisbane coming to you today live and direct with a great financial workshop that we have for you today. This financial workshop is all about personal finance. So today we're going to dive into the subject of credit scores and reports. I guarantee you that you're going to gain some information out of this particular session. So before we get started, I just want to let you know that BBVA is a bank that is creating opportunities for our community. And part of creating these opportunities is the outreach that they do within our faith-based community. And this is the purpose and the reason for these sessions, in order to share more information with us so we can create better financial opportunities for our lives. All right, with this workshop, we have about 4 goals that are going to come out of this workshop. 1, we're going to explore the importance of credit scores and reports. 2, we're going to learn how to access your credit and reports. 3, we're going to discuss strategies to build and improve credit. And 4, we're going to identify how to protect your credit from incorrect claims and fraud. So let's go. Let's dive all into this today. So as we see this, one thing that we want to do, we want to maintain healthy credit. And I know in thinking of this, you have to think about different ways that you can maintain healthy credit. And I know I say healthy credit as though your credit is a living thing. Sometimes we have to think about our credit as a living thing and how to maintain the health of that thing. And so in this, we got to think about certain things that we do. And so on a regular basis, do you know your credit score? That's a question that I'm going to ask to us all. And I want you to answer this to yourself and be true to yourself about this, because we're really going to grow with this. Number 2, do you always pay every bill on time? Number 3, do you know that your credit is so important to you? Number 4, have you requested a new credit report each year? Number 5, do you review your credit report regularly? And number 6, is your credit maxed out? Do you owe more than 30% of your available credit? So these are questions that we ask when we are determining your credit health. Again, these are questions that most lenders will ask. Even when they look at your application, they're basically looking at that application to see your credit health and how healthy is your credit. And so with this, we're going to understand about the different goals, the credit scores. And I know. I've been doing this for quite some time. I've been in banking and finance and real estate for over 20 years. And so, I know the answer. And some of you may think, hey, I know the answer about this. What is a credit score? A credit score is a 3-digit rating that tells lender how likely you are to repay debt. I had a client come in my office one day and I asked her, what is her credit score, or what is a credit score? And she said it's a 3-digit number that the devil created, so I can't have nothing. And I told her we're going to dispel that myth in her mind and change the way that she saw things. So let's learn more about our credit score. Okay, so if we look at different categories of what your score means and how to state the health of your score. If you're 600 or less, you're considered what we call poor credit. Poor credit is 600 or less. People with these scores below probably cannot have an opportunity to get into certain lending items, even when it comes to mortgages. You may not have the opportunities to get the best pricing, interest rates, and deals on credit cards. And so it puts you in a hard area. If we look at scores between 600 and 670, we call that fair credit. And so you're considered less of a risk to most lenders, and you may qualify for a few more things, but you still have a little problem when it comes to pricing. You may not get the optimal pricing or the lowest rates that are possible or the best deals that are possible. Then if we look at a credit score from 670 to 739, you're considered good credit. You're going to be eligible for all the greatest and latest deals that they have. You're going to get some of the best pricing out here. It's going to really help you when it goes to forging ahead with your financial stability. If you're 740 to 799, you're very good credit. Again, you're going to be open to all the opportunities of great credit. You're going to get the best credit card offers with the less interest rate. You're going to have the best opportunities for purchasing cars, homes, and anything else because you've shown yourself to have very good credit. Now let's get to this area that I'm aiming for. Yeah, it's not that I've arrived yet, but I'm definitely aiming. And that's the score between 800 and 850. We call that excellent credit. At that particular point, you're pretty much going to be approved for anything that you apply for. You're going to have the best opportunities, the lowest rates, more offers. You're just going to be a really great way for you to forge ahead with your financial stability. So it should be a number that we are all shooting for or aiming for when it comes to our credit. So let's look at building credit. We're going to look at a few strategies for building credit. And again, with this course that we're teaching, we're just touching on some items. Truly, to give you all of the information about credit scores, repair, all this stuff, it will take us almost 2 hours. So I'm going to be able to share with you a condensed version and also in little pieces of strategy to help you build credit. Getting loans or proving your credit worthiness with poor credit or no credit may be difficult. However, there are many steps that you can take to improve and build on your credit. And so I'm just going to touch on a few strategies. Number one, you can open up new lines of credit. Yeah, it goes to that cliche. It takes money to make money. Well, it takes credit to have better credit. So that's one way that you can begin to build on your credit. Number two, this is one that you have to always understand, and it's easier for you to do. You can request that your payment history be reported. And I know you're thinking, oh, they're going to report that. Well, I'll tell you this. For some of us, and I've ran into it a lot of times with clients who may go to car lots that are buy here, pay here, or they may get credit from stores that kind of run their in-house financing. And you've been paying these things on time the way that you should. You have to request that those payments be reported onto your credit report. And that helps build your credit because you've been making these payments on that car all this time for the past 2 years on time as you should. You want the benefit of that payment history to reflect on your credit scoring. You've been in there in their in-house financing for your furniture, for all this stuff. You want the benefit of those payments that you made on time to reflect in your credit scoring. So let's look at number three. Open a joint account. And when I say this is one way that you can build on your credit. Sometimes if you have a spouse or a mate whose credit may be a little stronger than yours and they have open accounts that are strong and that they've had for some time, you can be added onto that account, or maybe you can open a joint account together. And again, it's a joint account, so it's a joint responsibility. So meaning that this person that you open a joint account with, they're going to be attached to the hip with you on this. So you both have to make an agreement that you will be responsible for this debt. You will do the right things by it. And then if they're doing it only to help you build your credit, in order for you to show that appreciation of the help that they're giving you, you have to maintain it and do right by it. Okay. Number four. You can pay all your bills on time. Never miss a payment. Never miss a payment. That's one way that you can continue to build on your credit. Number five, I'm going to tell you this. If you have open credit card accounts or open revolving credit accounts, you can call and ask to increase your credit limits. By doing that, you're increasing your available credit, which will then in part help your scoring. All right, let's look at something, the impact of your scores. We understand this now that your scores have a big impact on the things that you do in life. Let's take a look at a few things that can really hurt your scoring. Do you not know now that when it comes to car insurance, when it comes to health insurance, homeowners insurance, they take a look at your credit. Your credit can determine and dictate your premium that you pay, because they've done something over the past few years to where that they get your information in, they put it into their system. It does these algorithms that read over and that verify your information, and then it produces them a report that says how risky you may be. So the lower your credit score is, you're considered a high risk, meaning that you are a higher risk. And I'll just tell you, this is what their reports say. You are a higher risk for possibly committing insurance fraud. And so for that purpose, to curb or to hedge their bets on their risk, they're going to offer you a higher than usual premium that you'll be paying just because of your credit scoring. All right. So when we think about this, we all know this. We all have friends that we may have grown up with each other and we've taken the same paths, but it seems like one friend may have an easier route to everything than the other friend has, especially when it comes to finances. We see people that say, hey, I want to buy a home, I'm doing this, I make just as much money as you do, if not more. But for whatever reason, it seems like one person has an easier path to obtaining those things that which they're going for than the other person. I can guarantee you the thing that's probably, causing the difference or the change or the variation between both friends is their credit. One may have better credit than the other, which means that more doors will open for her, more opportunities will open up for him. And so you have to understand is that your credit plays such a big part in things that we do financially now. And so when we do this, when we look at this, and that's why I tell people sometimes you can't get caught up with what your friends have and what they're doing and try to mimic it or try to follow or chase what they're doing. Yeah, they may be able to afford a more expensive house because their credit scoring is higher and their rate is lower. And so their payment is actually the same amount you're paying for a lesser house. So you have to understand this. Yeah, they can afford it because their insurance that they're paying yearly on their home is a lot less than the insurance that you're paying because their credit score is better. And so looking at that, you have to see that stark difference between credit score is something that could be a major change in finances. If you have one friend that's plus 700 on their credit score and you're minus 600 on your credit score, then the proof is going to be in the pudding. They're going to have more opportunities and more things that they can do, and they're going to have less trouble with getting loans than you will. And I'll tell you this, you see it a lot of times where someone you talk to them, they have a car, and it's a used car, maybe a nice car, but it's a used car, and they say, well, my monthly payment is $500 a month. And then you look at somebody else with a brand new car, which is a nicer car, and they say, well, my monthly payment is $500 a month. The only difference between those two, those opportunities that they have for purchasing, is their credit score. This is how important and how impactful it may be for us. All right. And so we look at the different ways of building credit, the different ways of maintaining credit, the different ways of ensuring that we have healthier credit. We have to understand that, again, it's no one way, it's no magic bullet that can ensure that everyone will have the same credit or that everyone can go to the top. But I tell you this, your credit is plainly this. It's your credibility. It's your credit worthiness. It's you. It's a reflection that we as lenders can look at and say, based on their track record, based on their credit experience that they've had over the years, they seem to be a good candidate for us lending more money to. They seem to be a good candidate for us giving them the lower rate. They're less of a risk to us. So your credit score plays such an important part in that. And even when it comes down to employment, I know some of you don't want to hear that, but with certain jobs, I know where I work at, with certain jobs, you can be barred from certain positions if your credit score isn't high enough. And reason being, remember, we go back to that risk aspect, because in certain positions with certain jobs and certain companies, they can't have people who are risky in higher positions. Because again, based on their reports, you're more of a risk to sell insider information. You're more of a risk to do something that would be detrimental to the company for personal gain. You become more of a risk. So with that they will tend to bar you or block you from that employment. So we have to make sure that we're mindful about that. All right, so let's think about the credit bureaus. There are 3 credit bureaus that operate. With these 3 credit bureaus, they're the ones that calculate and comes up with your credit scoring. You have Equifax, you have TransUnion, and you have Experian. These are the 3 credit unions that you have. These are the 3 credit bureaus that you have that come up with your scoring. and they figure this out. Most banks go to these three credit bureaus to pull what your score is, again, to see what your credit worthiness is. Make sure that you're a good candidate for a loan. And a lot of times when I talk to clients and they're like, yeah, I pay my bills, I do this, I pay them up, but they have to really think about their credit. You have to think about the impact that it may have on them. And sometimes they just miss that whole aspect of the impact that their credit score can have on their financial stability, on their financial growth, on their financial health. If we get this credit thing down, we can really begin to change things in our life. I'm telling you, I've seen it happen even in my life as a young man coming out of college. You're in college, and the first thing that happens when you get on the campus, they have these booths set up. They got one giving away a radio, one giving away this, one giving away that if you sign up for a credit card. And I fell prey to that. As a young man, 18 years old on campus, they say I get a CD player if I sign up for this Discovery card. Man, I got a CD player for my apartment. I went and signed up, not knowing and not understanding how really to handle my credit. And it took a few years after that for me to begin to put things back together and realize the importance of my credit. And so I see a lot of people at times, they struggle financially. They struggle trying to make it to that next level. They struggle trying to do things that they want to do. And mainly when you look at their finances, it's not because of the income, because a lot of them make pretty decent income. It's not because of the job or anything else, but it's usually because of their credit. So let's think about it. Again, when I tell you about the impact of your credit is your ability to get a loan, the interest rates that you'll get on that loan, the insurance rates that you'll have to pay, even your ability to rent. Now it's a lot of landlords that pull your credit before they will even allow you to sign a lease. And then you have to think about your eligibility or ability to get good credit cards, or your eligibility or ability to get good auto loans. It all pertains to the impact of your credit scoring. And so when we look at it, I have people ask me all the time, calculating my credit score, what goes into that calculation? What math do they use? What formula do they use to come up with my credit score? And it's pretty simple, but it lays it out to you in a way that you have to understand this and how it really weighs on certain things that we do and certain things that affect our credit. Number one, the biggest percentage of your credit scoring is going to be your payment history. It includes everything. Your payment history just really looks at, are you paying your bills on time? Are you doing as you've agreed to do? And I know I used to have these clients, man, all the time, merchant Siemens. Some years ago, this is about 10, 15 years ago, and I used to do a lot of loans out of the Seafarers Hall and do mortgages there. And I used to have the young guys, and the problem that they had was, when they went out to sea, they never paid anything. Now, when they get back home, they'll pay everything up. Sometimes they'll pay it in full, but when they were out to sea, they never paid it as agreed. And so when you used to sit down with them and talk to them about their credit, and they used to get, hey, man, I pay everything. You see, I paid them off. I don't owe anybody nothing. I don't know why my credit. And I used to tell them, you paid them off, but you didn't pay as agreed. With every loan that you get, with every responsibility you sign for, it's an agreement with it. It's telling you, you sign on there saying, I will pay this back at this amount each month by the 5th of the month. You sign and say that you're going to do that. And so if you pay as you've agreed to and as you sign to do so, then it reflects positively on your credit score. But if you pay like you want to pay, if you pay when you want to pay, it's going to have a negative impact on your credit score, even if you pay it off. I sit there and I talk to clients and like, yeah, I didn't pay this month, but I usually pay, double up the next month. So you can't do that. You got to make sure that you're paying every single month. You got to make sure that you're paying as agreed. If not, you're going to get hit severely on your credit scoring. So payment history makes up a big part of your credit score. The second thing is the amounts that you owe. That weighs heavily on your credit scoring as well. The third thing is your credit history. We talk about this so much about your credit history, your credit experience. That's what we normally tell you, credit experience, meaning that we want to see at least 2 years credit experience. And so the reason being, we want to see how you've maintained and how you've paid your responsibilities for a period of time. Even I'll tell you this, I've seen some people with higher credit scores but low credit experience. They may get a loan, but they're not going to get all the bells and whistles because, again, that credit is untested. So we want to see that credit experience for a period of time, how you've been able to handle yourself, how you've been able to maintain your bills. Have you been responsible? Have you been accountable about the agreements that you signed up for and that you agreed to do? So credit history, credit experience is really going to mean a lot. Number 4, new credit. And so we want to look at the new credit you have. And I tell people, be responsible about the new credit that you have. I know a lot of times and I can speak for myself, every time you go to Nordstrom, every time you go to Home Depot, every time you go to these stores, when you get to the counter, they're telling you, hey, you can save 25% if you sign up for this credit card. And you're tempted at times to go ahead and do it. But again, this is another pull on your credit score. This is another inquiry that you're going to have. This is new credit that you're going to get. And a lot of times these are stores that we don't frequently go to. So we're opening up new credit, but it's kind of useless to us. Why do that? Why put your credit in jeopardy to open up something that you're not really going to use, that's not going to really be beneficial to you? So be responsible. It's good to have new credit, but you want to be responsible, making sure you have the new right credit. So you want to make sure you're doing that the right way. Number 5, your credit types. So most times when it's coming up or calculating your credit score, we want to look at a variety of different credit types, from revolving credit, from installment credit, from auto loans to mortgages to personal loans. By having a good mix of different credit types, then we have a broader view of how you maintain and handle your credit. And so again, when it goes back to that credit experience, I told somebody one time before, I say the reason why it's so big, a mortgage sometimes will be the biggest responsibility that we ever get ourselves into. Most times it's the biggest purchase we'll ever have in our lives. And so we want to look at how you've been able to pay that $5,000 loan, that $10,000 loan, that $15,000 loan. You've been able to pay those correctly and on time and as agreed. So now we feel comfortable with giving you $100,000. Yeah, so if we look at the experience the other way and see that you struggled on that $5,000, you struggled on that $10,000, you had problems on that $15,000, now you want to borrow $100,000? Nah, it's not going to happen. So we have to make sure that we're doing things the right way, having that credit experience that really reflects who we are and what we are. And so with this, we want to make sure that mix of credit that we have is another thing that can help us out as well. All right. And so when we talk about credit types, I know that a lot of times we look at it, and some people, you say credit types, and where installment loans are usually going to be your auto loans, the loans that are installments until you pay it off. Revolving credit is your credit cards because it revolves. You can pay it down, you can use it up, pay it down and use it up. Mortgages, that's pretty self-explanatory. Personal loans, that's pretty self-explanatory as well, and they're also considered installment loans. So those are the different types that we're looking at in order to make sure that you have a good mix of credit. All right. Now, again, I talked to you earlier about building credit, and I told you, I said at times, one thing that can be used to build a credit is to do a joint account. Now, this, I want to make this mention. When we were talking about building credit, remember I gave you the process. I say, yeah, if you open a joint account with somebody, you have to be equally responsible about that debt and understand how you must maintain it because somebody else is on the line with you as well. So now with this, I want to talk to you about a different scenario. Co-signing. Oh, yeah, I know I've heard it. It sounds like a good idea, especially sometimes when you're signing for a child or a significant other or a close friend. But co-signing on certain debts, can be detrimental. I'm telling you now, I'll give you a warning. If you are not made up in your mind that if this person fails to make payments, I will assume this responsibility, then don't co-sign. Don't co-sign at all. I had to learn the hard way. I would not co-sign for anybody. I promise you. My son even tell you, and this is a true story. When he went to college and he had to get an apartment, the apartment people say, hey, if your dad signs, you won't have to pay the $1,000 deposit. So my son called me, he said, Dad, the leasing agent is on the phone. If you could co-sign for me for this apartment, I won't have to pay the $1,000 deposit. I said, put the person on the phone. When they got on the phone, I said, where do I send the $1,000 to? Can I wire it to you right now? Because I knew for a fact I wasn't co-signing on anything. And sometimes we get ourselves caught in these situations. The intentions are well. We really mean well by helping out a family or a friend or anything like that. But you have to have it in your mind that if this were to go left, I will be able to assume the responsibility and make these payments. If not, if I can't assume that responsibility, I'm going to assume that negativity that's going to come for that payment being missed or that default on the loan. I'm going to assume all that hurt that's going to kill my credit by doing this. So you have to be really, really careful about co-signing. I make sure I tell people, I give them that. I've seen people come in my office. I had a young lady that was in my office just last year, came in and do a loan. Everything else on her credit was fine. Her scoring was decent, but she had a repossession on there. And it was a recent repossession with a balance. So anytime when it has an outstanding balance, that has to be taken care of. We can't lend you anything until that's taken care of. The balance was $15,000. And she said that she co-signed on a car for her daughter, and her daughter later stopped paying, and the car was repossessed, and now her daughter won't do anything about it. She actually called her daughter in my office with me and said, hey, I'm trying to get this mortgage. I've been trying to get this house, did everything else. I get here, they tell me that I can't move forward because of this repossession. Now I need you to call them and make an arrangement to do something. She told her mom flat out while she was sitting in front of me on speakerphone, she said, what I got to do with that? That is your problem. And I hurt for her mom. Her mom was doing the right thing when she co-signed, and the daughter just happened to not do the right thing when it came time to being responsible for it. So really be careful about co-signing. I tell people, unless it's just imperative, unless it's just an emergency, something that cannot be avoided, it just has to be done, then co-sign. But other than that, at all costs, I don't co-sign. I love my family. I just won't co-sign anything for them. I guarantee you they'll tell you the same. So with this, I just want to give you that cautionary tale about that, because that is something that we see quite often on people's credit. They come in and it's everything that they've had has been paid as agreed. They've done a great job. And then they'll tell you, they'll say, I used to have a 700 credit score and I signed for my son, and now my credit score is 550, and it just killing everything I'm trying to do. And so in order to keep you from that hurt, in order to keep you from going down that lane, I'm trying to tell you now, be careful about that. If you can avoid it, please, please, please avoid it. Unless, I'll say this again, you're ready to take on the responsibility of paying for it. All right, so let's move on just a little bit in this. And I know I got a little longer on my rant on that one, but again, this is a cautionary tale. I hear this so many times when people bring this up to me. So now let's talk about credit reports. This is the part where I tell people all the time, this is an important way that you can always know that your credit is fine. You have to get into the habit of reviewing your credit report regularly. You have to make sure that it's one of the ways that you can maintain that healthy credit. Remember, I told you we're trying to make sure they have healthy credit. And again, a credit report is a snapshot of your credit history. Lenders use your credit report to understand how likely you are to repay your loan. And so when they're making their decision on whether to extend this credit to you or not. And so when we look at that, we have to make sure what's on your credit report. It's going to show all your existing and past loans, your lines of credit, your credit card. They're all going to show on there. Dates when the accounts were open, the amounts that were owed on the accounts, missed payments on the account. and then also some public information. Whether there's a bankruptcy out there or a judgment, it will all show on that credit report. Now let's talk about accessing your credit report. Oh, this is something that's easy, and I'm telling you, you all should take these particular steps. Again, the government did something for us a few years ago where they allowed us to get a free copy of our credit reports once a year. And it's called annualcreditreport.com. I'm going to say it again, annualcreditreport.com. This is a free service that's done by the government that allows you to pull a free copy of your credit report each year. And that's all three bureaus. So you get a free copy of your Experian, a free copy of your Equifax, a free copy of your TransUnion credit reports. And so the unique thing about this, when I say you got to get it to being a habit, me and my wife, we try to make it that every year when we file our taxes, we pull our credit as well. That way we're already in that mindset, file taxes, pull credit, file taxes, review credit. And so you have to get in the habit of doing that. Now, I'll tell you something else that I found out recently, that the government did something even more advantageous for us, that since we've been in this COVID environment with everything going on, the economic decline, they've actually allowed you to be able to access your credit report once a month for free through the same site, annualcreditreport.com, because they've come to find out that even when we're in this economic decline, even when we're in COVID and doing all this thing, you would be surprised that the vultures and the wolves come out to play. And so in order to protect you, they want you to just be able to go in there and search your credit on a regular basis. Many of you may not know that, but during times of a crunch like this, more scams come up, more fraudulent activity happens than any other time. And you'll be thinking like, man, we're all doing, going through a rough time. Why would somebody do this? Again, you cannot shame the devil. He's going to do what he's going to do. This is the things that he does. So we have to be mindful of that and continue to make sure that we're reviewing our credit report on a regular basis to make sure that everything that we're doing or everything that's on there is accurate. Now, we think about our credit scores. I know I hear this a lot. Some people say, I want to find my credit score. I want to look at that and get that going. Again, I like it. I'm one who's an advocate of some of these other credit monitoring sites or credit reviewing sites. I get questioned all the time about Credit Karma. I think it's a good tool. And the reason why I think it's a good tool, it allows you to be able to review your credit at the click of a button, usually on your phone. And so you're able to see things. It gives you alerts when things pop up on your credit that they think they're not yours. And you can also dispute that. And that was another thing, too, about annualcreditreport.com, which is a big one. You're able to dispute negative items on your credit report digitally. And that's a big one. I'm sorry I skipped over that. And the reason why that's so big, I may be dating myself when I say this, but a lot of us remember back in the day, if you wanted to challenge your credit report or dispute an item, you had to send a certified letter. You had to get all this information and you had to send it over to that creditor. And what we used to call it, it was almost like playing tennis. You'll send a letter to them, then they'll send a letter back to you, and then you send a letter back to them. And then it was just a way of keep going back and forth until the first person gives up. Whoever gives up first, that's who wins. And so normally at times, depending on what the credit was, that creditor will keep coming back. There are people that are to keep sending those letters back, and vice versa. Sometimes if you just were adamant about doing it, sometimes you can win that way. But the unique thing about it now, when you dispute digitally, it gives that creditor 14 business days to respond. If they don't respond to that credit bureau, proving that that is your loan, proving that the information they have reported is correct, then that goes away. It gets removed from your credit report. And so in your disputing, and I tell people this as well, when you dispute, don't just dispute on one bureau. You have to make sure that you dispute on all three bureaus, because you don't want it to be removed off one bureau and it's still showing on the other two, meaning that your score for the other two bureaus maybe less. You want to dispute it on all three bureaus. So when it's wiped out, that joke is wiped out of everything, and your credit it will reflect positively for doing that. So that's the unique thing about annualcreditreport.com. You're able to dispute online. And then you don't have to come up with this long, drawn-out story as to why, when, what. On annualcreditreport.com, each bureau, when you're disputing, it has a drop down. And it has a drop down box that talks about all the different reasons why you may be disputing. And all you have to do is click the reason that matches up with your reason. And then it has another box where you can put in additional comments in it. So it's a lot easier. It's an easier process for you. And then again, it's a quicker turnaround. So again, back in the day when we were challenging credit or disputing, it was a 90 to 120 day kind of thing. I mean, you may get lucky if it was 60 to 90 day back and forth thing to something actually change for you on the positive side. But usually it took a little while. But with this, again, it gives them 14 business days to respond or it gets removed. So again, let's talk about your credit report and what's in it. Your credit report maintains or have four major sections. The first section is going to be your personal information. That's usually at the top of that credit report. It's going to have your name, your date of birth, your social security number, your address, and maybe even have your employer's information. The second section that you're going to find is going to be public information or public records. And that's usually at the very end of your credit report. And it'll have any legal cases against you, any tax liens, any bankruptcies that will appear on there. And then the next section you're going to have is going to be financial information. And it's going to include all current accounts that you have in your name, the amount of debt in each account. It's going to include any missed payments on each account also. And then the next part is going to be credit requests or inquiry section. And this section is going to include information about all the people or agencies that have asked to view your credit in the past 2 years or inquiries that you've had in the past 2 years. So that's the makeup of those four sections of your credit report. And again, I tell people a lot of times, we're talking about having healthy credit. We're talking about having credit that allows or that opens the doors for more opportunities for you. So again, maintaining a healthy credit report, reviewing your credit information regularly, correcting wrong information are the two major steps you can take to maintain that healthy credit report. And so sometimes you have to make a plan about what should do with your credit report. How do you make a plan to ensure that you have healthy credit? I know you think about what plan do I need to make? Now, one, I'm going to put these items down that you should be writing down what you should do on a regular basis to maintain a healthy credit report. One of those things is to check your credit report for accuracy. Yeah, you got to check it. Make sure everything going there lines up with you. Another thing that I faced or went through, my son is a junior. So a lot of times I have to go through my credit report and check and make sure that things that are listed on there are for me and not for my son. So it takes me a time to make sure that everything on there is reporting accurate. Other thing you want to do is you want to check for incorrect reporting of your credit. Make sure that everything in there should be on there. Nothing is wrong. Everything is laid out the way that it should. You want to make sure that if there's anything on there wrong, if this account balance is wrong, you want to make sure it's corrected. If it's reporting missed payments incorrectly, you want to dispute that and make sure you get it correctly. If they have reporting negative public records that is wrong, you want to make sure you get that correct because, again, it's going to reflect on your credit scoring. So you want to make sure that it lines up and it matches what you know to be true. Other thing, the number of credit requests that you have, you want to ensure that you allow those people to check your credit. Yes, you can dispute that. If you look on there, you have a whole lot of inquiries, and those are inquiries that you did not authorize. You can dispute those and have those removed. I've had a client before, one time came in my office, and I looked at him, I'm like, dude, you had 18 inquiries in 2 weeks. What were you doing? He said, well, I went to buy a truck. And he didn't know that the car lot that he went to, and he went in their finance office, this is what they do. They pull your credit and then they shop your loan to all these other lenders, and every last one of them pull your credit as well, which then in part made it out to be 18 inquiries. And he realized I didn't authorize that. He called and had all of that disputed. It took a while for it to come off, but when it came off, his scores increased after that. So you want to make sure everything is correct. And those people that have pulled your credit, you did authorize them to pull your credit. So you want to make sure you're doing that. So again, let's go over these steps that we talked about. Number one, we want to review our credit report. We're talking about maintaining that healthy history. Number two, if there's anything wrong, we want to make sure that we're disputing. We're contacting those agencies to let them know that this is wrong, this is inaccurate. Whether we're going through annualcreditreport.com and each individual agency, or whether we're disputing on Credit Karma with each individual agency, we want to make sure that we're contacting these credit bureaus to tell them that their information is incorrect. Number three, if there's documents needed in order for us to dispute, on annualcreditreport.com and on those individual sites, it gives you an option to load documents into the system. It also has a fax number for you to fax any documents or attach or mail any documents to them to prove or to verify that that is incorrect. Number four, after we've done that, we want to make sure that we receive a correct report. Usually they're supposed to send you back a report with the items removed to show that it's been done, but more times than not, you just get notification that there's been an improvement on your credit scoring or there's been a change in your credit report. And so there are some special circumstances where you may have to step out and get actual credit repair. A lot of things you can do on your own. A lot of things you can really do to reestablish and to help your credit after bankruptcy, after foreclosure, after the divorce. But sometimes there's some cases where you really need some help for someone that can help you. And so when we think about that, when we think about those times when you need someone to help you with your credit repair, we want to be really, really careful about that. I tell people all the time, anybody, if you see any sign that says $99 and I'll remove everything off your credit score, you have perfect credit, it's a scam, it's a lie. You're going to get what you pay for. You're going to get what you pay for. Anytime you're dealing with a credit repair company that requires you to pay up front before they give you any results, it's a scam. And the reason why they want you to pay up front, because in the end, they're not going to have any results for you that you will pay them for. So they get their money up front from you. If you have any credit people that give you the statements of this stuff that they can do that's really impossible, you need to be cautious about that, because these things they can't do. But those instances where you need credit repair, there are some reputable companies that can really help you, some people that actually do the work, that have a track record that can show you, hey, these are the people that I've helped, these are the reviews that we have, this is what we do. I've seen some really good ones, some of that are normally attached to some legal kind of groups or lawyers. I've seen some of the things that they've been able to do to really improve people's credit score. Now, it's not cheap. They're definitely going to make sure that it's going to be a cost to it, but you're going to see that you're going to get your money's worth. Now, Credit Repair Organizations Act. This is something that was passed a few years ago. Per this act, credit repair organizations, they must do these things. They must not engage in false advertising and deceptive practices that can cause you harm. All right. Another thing that they must do, they must provide you with a copy of the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Number 3, they must be transparent about what they can do. Number 4, not charge money for their services until they've completed the job. Number 5, provide you with the contract that you may cancel the contract within 3 days of signing. This is what they must do. And this is the Credit Repair Organizations Act. So it's a law. So it's there. All right. Now, again, we talked about those scams. And I can tell you how to spot a few of those scams. Sometimes, again, these scams say things that are just, you just won't even be able to. I'll just give you an example. Just think about it. I'm going to give a fictional name. Think about Maggie. After her house fell into foreclosure, Maggie researched several credit repair agencies, The first agency told Maggie, they found her, they researched, and they said they promised to remove all bad credit information from her report. All she had to do was pay an upfront fee. Maggie was worried about her bad debts, but the company assured her that they could scrub all negative information from her report. They also advised her not to contact the credit bureaus directly, as it would negatively impact their efforts. And so you look at that statement alone was just full of red flags. You know, you have to understand, you have to be able to spot the red flags that they have. One of the first red flags that just jumped out to you, the first thing that they told her, they promised to remove all bad credit information from the report. At times, there's some information that can't be removed. You know if it's bad, you know if you've done this, you know if it was correct and it was true. Some of that information cannot be removed. So again, this is the first red flag. Anytime they make a promise to remove all negative information, you know that that's a red flag. The other part is they required her to pay an upfront fee. That's a red flag. Again, if they got to charge you upfront, that means that they're scared that they will not be able to produce results at the end that you will pay for. All right, the next thing that was a big red flag, they assured her, I can scrub all the negative information from your report. Again, some negative information you have may not be able to be scrubbed away from your report. And some things you just have to bear with and deal with until the time period elapses or whatever the case may be. But everything that's negative cannot be scrubbed away from your report. And so that's another red flag that they had. All right, and the last one, they advised her not to contact the credit bureaus directly, as it would negatively impact their efforts. Anytime they're telling you not to contact the credit bureaus, it's because they don't want you to ask the credit bureaus what they are doing. They think if you call the credit bureaus and say, hey, I have this company working on my behalf doing this, the credit bureaus are probably going to tell you, nobody's working on this. We received one letter disputing everything, but it didn't have the proper information. It didn't have the proper stuff that needed to be done. So although they did dispute, we accepted the dispute, we're going to return it back to them with no changes. So that's why they don't want you to contact the credit bureaus direct, because you will know, they will tell you that, hey, you're not getting your money's worth out of this deal. And so we have to be careful and be mindful of those scams. Now remember, a lot of times you hear, and I'm going to go back to an old saying. I know you've heard it a lot of times. I know it sounds like beating a dead horse, but if it sounds too good to be true, 9 times out of 10, it is. And, that's just the truth, as plain as I could possibly put it. And there are some debt counseling services, and at times these may be options for you. Some of us that have a lot of credit cards or a lot of debt and seem like your debt is getting out of control, or you may be in a situation to where that you have credit card debts and you just seem to not be able to pay down that balance, and it's starting to affect, your other things that you're doing, your livelihood. You may want to contact a debt counseling service. Years ago, they used to call them CCC, credit counseling services. So they used to do that. They used to do all this credit counseling, or basically they would have you send them the money to pay your bills out for you. And in certain cases, these debt counseling companies still do the same thing. But usually they negotiate lower fees for you, or they negotiate modified payments for you in order to help you pay down that debt quickly. A lot of times, some of these debt counseling services will reach out to your creditors and advise them that, hey, based on the income that she has, based on what she's doing, it's really becoming a strain to her. We need to modify this interest. If we could bring this interest rate down, maybe this can get paid off on time and she won't struggle as much to pay this on time for you. And most creditors will allow that because, again, you may have been paying late. You may have not been meeting your responsibility. Excuse me. And it gives them an opportunity to ensure that they will receive payments from you. All right, now we're coming to a close on this, but again, debt counseling services. If I'm making a plan for that, again, they're going to dispute any errors that I identify on my credit report. They're going to allow you to pay off accounts that are marked as charge off or in collections. They're going to help you. They're going to help you by making sure that they can negotiate and get you modified payments in order to get things paid off or paid down. All right. So let's be strategic about this. We talked about, strategies to improve our credit, good habits that we can have to do it. We talked about different ways that we can do it. And so some of the other strategies that we talked about, again, using your available credit wisely, paying your bills on time, paying off credit card bills each month in full if possible. Pay your loans on time. Do not apply for a lot of credit accounts or in a short period of time, getting a lot of inquiries on your credit report. Make a financial plan or a debt management plan to reduce your debt. Create and follow a monthly budget. That is so big. Create and follow a monthly budget. And periodically review your credit report for accuracy and correctness to make sure that it reflects what is truly going on with your finances and your credibility. So some of the takeaways that I want you to grasp from this course that we did today is that it's important to review your credit report regularly. You can request them from annualcreditreport.com, and it's really important that you do this. Also, I wanted you to remember that your credit score is a reflection of your debt management practices. It's a reflection of your credit worthiness. It's a reflection of you. Number 3, always pay your bills on time. Never default on loans. And number 4, if possible, repair your bad credit by managing debts and making sure you handle your credit responsibly. And so this is some of the things that I want us to take away from this. Again, it was my pleasure to offer this information to you. One thing about our jurisdiction, I think we have a lot of talent in our jurisdiction, especially when it comes to areas of finance. I'm just sharing information with you today. This is something that we do to create opportunities, not selling anything, but giving you information that can help you be more financially savvy, be able to charge forward and have a prosperous financial life. And so these are some of the items that we're sharing with you. Hopefully you're able to grasp what these concepts about credit scores and reports really mean and how impactful they are on your life. And again, this is Pastor Terrence Brisbane, and I'm just sharing this information with you. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you have any additional questions, please email the Central Florida First box, and you can put any question that you have about this particular lesson. If you want more information, if you need the printouts for this particular information, maybe you want to share this with your children, with your family, email Central Florida First. We'll get a copy of this workshop to you so that you may have. And if you want us to possibly even do this just in your church or with a smaller group, and you may want that, email Central Florida First. They'll get in contact with us, and we'll share this information with you. Remember, still tune in next month, the second Tuesday of the month, same time, same place. We're going to bring even more information to you, financial workshops that's going to be beneficial to you, and hopefully you'll gain a lot from it. Again, I thank you for your time. Have a great day and be blessed.